So, we talk about there's a difference between protecting privacy and protecting privates.
Oh, jeez. It was there. You had to use it.
And this is a case of both.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax. HIPAA help is on the way.
Hello, this is Rich Hervig with Brightside IT out of Atlanta, Georgia, and you're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast.
Thank you for that intro. Welcome to the podcast. My name is David Sims of HIPAA for MSPs and Security First IT. And joining me is Donna Grindle of Carden. Good morning, Donna.
Hey, buddy. How you done?
I am doing quite well. I'm going to fake it till I make it.
Hey, that's what they say. The more you do to tell yourself you're doing well, the more likely you will be.
Yeah. Well, it's been a hectic week, as most people have. It's funny when I walk in somewhere now, they're like, so how's it going? I'm like, do you really want to know?
Really? Oh, really?
It's kind of crazy. Like I'm getting tired of this mess. So, not only do we have all the stress and mess going on with COVID, then you got all the craziness going on with social unrest. And then, people are blowing up Beirut.
Beirut blew up Beirut.
And then, I read something yesterday that's talking about this new strain of malware that antivirus can't stop. and then there's some kind of alert from the CDC that there's some deadly something coming that's going to attack kids. And I'm like, good grief.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
It's 2020, man. It's on fire. It's just everything is just crumbling this year. We've got to make it through it. Get to the other side. I had hoped 2020 was going to be so much better than 2019.
I know. Bring back 2019.
I'll take it back. I'll take it back.
We're sorry. I'm so sorry. I love you, 2019.
Yeah.
But anyway, but part of that too, I believe, is that people, most people don't deal well with change anyway. But when you do that in mass, oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's just built-in chaos.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people are just they're wore out and they're agitated and they're seeing the negative and everything. It's just tough. So anyway.
We need to all sing Kumbaya.
Yeah, if it was only that easy. But just because craziness has happened doesn't mean HIPAA goes out the window.
Exactly. We're still at it.
Yes, we are. And so last week we talked about, or we introduced, actually we're not ready for this yet. First of all, we want to say, subscribe to our podcast, share us out on social media, leave a review. We're asking for those again. Thanks to our donors that are still donating to the podcast. We appreciate it. And we do have a topic we're going to talk about, but first we're going to take a quick break and then get into it, as well as our new segment that we have going on.
Say what?
So stay tuned. Does your business work with medical practices? As a medical practice business associate, do you realize that if you have access to patient information, you have to follow the same HIPAA rules as your client? Call Carden today at 678-292-5001 so they can assess your privacy and security practices to help ensure you are protected and prepared. Visit cardenhq.com to learn more.
2/3 of small businesses that experience a cybersecurity breach end up closing their doors within 6 months. Cyber criminals are targeting your practice and coming after your most sensitive data. Visit us online and schedule a time to talk about what you can do to protect yourself, your patients, and your practice. Our website is securityfirstit.com. That's securityfirstit.com.
All right, we're back. So in today's segment, we're going to be talking about data breach costs continuing to rise because, everybody needs a raise.
Yeah.
And but before we do that, we introduced a new segment last week. And the new segment is HIPAA.
Say what?
And this is where we go through some of the news and alerts that's come out during the week. And things we've seen and happening. And as always, cray, Just cray cray. The first one is a postcard alert. If you don't think people are being hacked by postcards.
I know. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
So I'll let you talk about it, and then I'll give my analysis of it.
Expert analysis says, well, this came out yesterday on the OCR privacy and security listserv that we're on.
Yes.
And wow. And this happened a couple of years ago. And I mean, like a lot more than a couple probably. But when somebody does this, it's really not smart. The announcement says OCR has been made aware of postcards being sent to healthcare organizations disguised as official OCR communications, claiming to be notices of a mandatory HIPAA compliance risk assessment. And the postcards have a Washington, D.C. return address, and the sender uses the title, quote, Secretary of Compliance, HIPAA Compliance Division. And it's addressed to healthcare organizations' HIPAA compliance officer and prompts recipients to visit a URL, call, or email to take immediate action on a HIPAA risk assessment. And then the link directs individuals to a non-governmental website that is marketing consulting services.
Yes. Great marketing strategy.
It's a marketing strategy, and they give you a picture of the postcard, and, you know, they scanned a copy. They only show us the front. They don't show us the back. But it was done to look really official as to what you needed to do. See reverse for instructions. Notice, blah, blah, blah. Makes it look all official.
Yeah. And they spelled HIPAA correctly, which,
Yeah, there you go. That was, you wouldn't expect it on this. This communication is from a private entity. It is not an HHS OCR communication. Let's be clear. That's what their notice says. You should alert your workforce to this misleading communication so that they are not engaging with these people. And you can always verify a communication is from OCR by looking for the OCR address or email address on any communication that purports to be from OCR, and it'll show you what they will have on there. Suspected incidents of individuals posing as federal law enforcement should be reported to the FBI.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so things are not going to go well for whoever did this.
Mm-mm.
It's these Facebook certified HIPAA experts, maybe.
Yeah. FBI doesn't stand for Facebook investigator.
So,
at least there weren't any seeds in this one.
No, that's the weirdest thing. I don't know.
Another 2020 thing.
Yeah, just random stuff. Okay, so if you haven't looked into that story, look into it just to say, wow, because no one can figure that out, why random seeds are being sent. But back to the story here. These people seem to know just enough about HIPAA to get themselves in trouble.
Which is the case a lot of times.
I know, right? It's a business, apparently, that did this, the marketing FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt mailing. And these create a list of problems. These were the ones I came up with off the top. Spread misinformation about HIPAA requirements right away. Mm-hmm. It implies that OCR is involved in this as sounds like an enforcement type thing. And anyone who actually falls for it could pay a premium for what will, let's just say, likely be inadequate services.
Yeah, you think?
You think? So they're selling assessment consulting services, scaring people, trying to scare people into doing it. And I'm just, Mm-mm.
Yeah, and it looks like a government entity,
Yeah.
which is even worse.
Yeah. So I want to know who it is, but they're not giving that out. So if you got one of these, if you've received one of these, hook us up. Tell us what's going on.
Address. Yeah, just look up the address. Google the address and see what you get.
I know, right?
There's probably a post office box somewhere.
But if you know somebody that got one, seriously, let us see the whole thing. Because HIPAA say what?
No kidding. So this tactic, even though not new, we don't see it very often in this arena. Where we do see this a lot, at least I do, is I see people do this a lot with domain registrars.
Oh, I hate that.
And I have probably every single client I've ever had at some point sends me an email and says, do I need to re-register my domain, or do I need to do something with this or whatever? And it's a postcard from a company that's like, you're about to lose your domain. You're going to lose your website and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my. And I've had people pay.
Yeah.
I ain't going to lie. I've had people pay.
Yeah.
And they'll send me things like, I paid $75 to renew my domain for this year. And I'm like, you did what? First of all, they don't have your domain.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, it ain't $75 a year.
No, it should never be that. I had somebody that paid $300 one time, and we found him, and we're like, what is this? But once you fall for it, and the way they do it, it's the same thing here. They just mail it in and scare the people into signing up for it and doing it.
Mm-hmm. So I wonder if this is something very similar, where it's not that you're going to get services from another company. It's probably that they're going to send you a questionnaire to fill out.
Yep.
And then they'll probably send you some pre-done risk assessment results that aren't even based on what you turned in.
Yeah. Well, it'll be a gap analysis. It won't be a risk assessment.
Yeah, but it won't be, I don't think it'll be the gap analysis for that customer. I think it's just going to be a standard gap analysis.
Everybody gets the same report.
Right. Everybody. Yeah. Okay. You get a gap analysis. You get a gap analysis. It's going to be handed on. I do think it's just going to be photocopied. Now, I don't know this, obviously, but I think it's a scam of some sort.
Well, it's clearly, at a minimum, it's somebody that's clueless.
Mm-hmm.
More than likely, there's a scam involved. Yeah. But either way, FBI was mentioned.
Yeah. Because I'm thinking, okay, let's say it is a scam. Like most scams like this, you gotta get your payout quickly and you gotta move. And so that's what I'm thinking, is that chances are they're thinking that by the time this catches on that it's happening, they'll have made, a few $100,000 from people that are paying a crazy amount of money to get this assessment done. And who knows what else. But anyway, that's just speculation.
You think it's a hit and run kind of thing, not somebody that's actually thinking this is the way that they're going to make money doing HIPAA things.
I think so, because I think that this is so risky that even somebody who just knows a little bit about HIPAA probably has better sense than this.
No, but think about how many people, all they know is that, headline that somebody says about. You and I both have seen people be experts on social media and various, on they say, which means, the internet. And people are saying that means the internet. They get a little bit of information and turn that into, we're going to make a boatload of money doing this. And, it's possible, but it's going to be interesting to see if we get to learn about it. So I really want to know what was on the flip side so that we can follow up on the story. Mm-hmm. But we're not like journalists and real reporters and stuff. But I can tell you this, the fact that people fall for it is even more concerning.
Oh, yeah.
Because that means the people who are supposed to know about HIPAA don't.
Well, here's the interesting part, is that if you got an email with all the exact elements, you would probably delete it. Because it shows up in your physical mailbox, you're likely to give it more credence.
Mm-hmm. Used to, it was the other way around.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you can have spam show up in your physical mailbox.
Well, they're the vishing thing alerts and everything now.
Mm-hmm.
So vishing is a thing, which is, they leave a voicemail before they fish you.
Yeah.
Getting you to do things on the voicemail. Mm-hmm. So anyway, it's getting crazy out there, folks.
Yeah. And that goes into a larger problem is that most folks, especially business folks, they don't understand the threat and how those things happen. I just had a talk I gave this week to a group of business owners and professionals, but there was nobody there that understood until we had the conversation that hackers aren't really hacking the way they think. They think they're sitting out there trying random passwords and, all this high level technical stuff to hack in. And I'm like, no, that's the hard way to do it.
Right.
People aren't doing that anymore.
No.
They're doing social engineering and they're doing physical breaches where, they just walk into a place, if they want to specifically attack you, which is super easy. Mm-hmm. And so I start going through all these things that people can do that has nothing to do with technology initially. Mm-hmm. And then I start hearing all these people go, oh my goodness, you know what? My computers are, the back of the computers are facing people when they walk in. And we often have people not at the front desk. Mm-hmm. And, had the little bell there, ring the bell for service. Uh-huh. Yeah. By the time you ring your bell for service, I've already breached your entire network.
I know, right?
Yeah. And some of these are medical offices and stuff like that. So anyway, there's a lot of education that still needs to go around. People that listen to this podcast are educated, highly educated on this stuff, but help educate those around you about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't hesitate to share the knowledge, and it takes more than once, trust me. Mm-hmm. So that takes us to sharing the knowledge, sharing and oversharing.
I thought you'd like that.
Great segue.
Yeah.
So, this is.
Yeah. So, we talk about there's a difference between protecting privacy and protecting privates.
Oh, jeez. It was there. You had to use it.
And this is a case of both.
Yeah. And the police are looking into this. So somebody's going to finally learn this is not a joke. Mm-hmm. But, and I think it's up in the Carolinas. Go figure. It's in your backyard or mine. No, this was in Pennsylvania. Never mind. There was another one in the Carolinas I was considering, but this one seemed more get the point across. This is Quantum Imaging and Therapeutic Associates post on their social media page, which, well, we don't need to go into it, but they post on their social media page that they received reports of possible criminal activity involving a patient privacy breach by one of its non-physician employees.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that they identified that.
I did too. I was like, really? You got to make sure it wasn't one of the doctors. Okay, so Quantum immediately reported the incident to law enforcement and is committed to respecting the privacy of its patients, deeply disheartened by these reports. Until a full investigation is completed, no further comment can be provided at this time. So I had seen this one and just hadn't gone back and looked at it, Mm-hmm. And then when it kind of bubbled back up on my list again when I was going through it. So I actually went and read some of the comments and oh. Okay, so I'm not going to call out the person's name, number one, because I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but people are posting because apparently this woman who works there posted in a Facebook group the image of a man's genitals.
Say what?
Say what? and this is imaging, so I don't know which, there's a million different imaging options. But they point out that considering that she didn't even take it seriously at first, telling people they needed to learn how to take a joke.
Oh.
I hope this is a wake-up call to her and to your company. There needs to be some serious retraining and policy changes regarding having personal devices around private patient information. So apparently took a photo with their camera of the image being displayed. Okay. So, and there's some other, interesting posts. And here's the thing that people don't get. Her career's down the toilet just for posting something in a meme group, which, of course, it should be. And, they're saying she could be prosecuted, but I don't know whether that would have to be on state law because there's no HIPAA prosecution unless the OCR sends it over to the Department of Justice under the realm of Melissa. That's too far down the road. There's other ways that they, I suppose, could do it. But the point is she posted this and said people need to take a joke. And here's the one that got the most attention from me, although not from a lot of other people. The world is watching. I saw her post all the way in the UK. So everybody that thinks that this doesn't go anywhere and it's no big deal, in the UK, this poor man probably doesn't even have a clue his image is floating around the internet. She should know better. HIPAA is drilled in from day one. And so she goes off onto the whole HIPAA thing. And, absolutely right. And then somebody goes, did this person really just break HIPAA? Which I thought was interesting.
Break HIPAA.
Break HIPAA?
No, HIPAA's not broken.
Yeah. And so then other people are like, let's hope you contacted the patient. Well, I do too, because this is a privacy breach. And I can't imagine having my genitals displayed to a Facebook group of thousands of people for laughs. And then someone else said, trust me, the people in this group were not laughing.
No, there was nobody that I read that thought this was funny or a good idea. No, I mean, they were calling for this person's head on a silver platter.
Yeah, I mean, they're like, I'd be horrified if I went in for an x-ray and left a porn star.
Yeah, I know.
And it apparently 80,000 people or more have seen it at the point that this was posted 3 weeks ago. They said that at that point, 80,000 people. And so everybody is upset about it. No one's laughing, but the employee, everybody was angry on there. And so all these people are saying they're angry. And then I saw this one. It's concerning and disappointing that this statement came out after 8 hours of folks trying to contact you about the issue. You took the time to edit your page, remove your listed phone number, and delete comments and reviews, but never once even acknowledge you were looking into the matter. Not exactly a confidence-inspiring course of action. So when we tell people you have to be careful when things hit social media, the fact that they took care of their damage control more than the patient's damage, and everybody saw it happen. 8 hours after you hear that, you figure out how to deal with that problem. And you make it clear you're dealing with the problem. So, then everybody's like, well, if you're trained in medical, then they're arguing about whether or not you know to do this. If you're even taught, you shouldn't do that. And, oh, well, she went to medical college, so you should learn in medical. No, you should learn if you get a job mopping the floor.
Yeah.
You're required to. It doesn't matter where you start in healthcare. If you're delivering the mail, if you're whatever they used to call the basement jobs, which were also ironically IT, but it doesn't matter where you start. It's no. So no.
Yeah. Clear issue here.
Yeah, there's no doubt that individual should have known not to do that. And if you think you have people that don't get it, then share some of this out, make this story known, because we have multiple ones. We have multiple examples. This is just another example of social media screw ups by people in their daily job that should know better.
Yeah. It would do you well to add this to your training.
Yeah.
And it doesn't
world stories.
Exactly. And we talk about this all the time about, HIPAA training. But dude, all it takes is a 5 or 10 minute, you're doing a meeting anyway, once a week or whatever. Just throw this in there. Look, here's a HIPAA violation that happened. Because somebody sitting in there is probably going to think, wow, I didn't realize that was a problem. They may not like what happened, but they're going to be like, I didn't know it was a HIPAA violation. I just thought it was stupid and you shouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing too is even if you have nobody in there that doesn't realize this is a problem, you've educated them and heightened their awareness so that if they do see something at some point down the road, they're likely to question it or bring it up to you.
Yeah, because the other thing is, I'm sure that this woman thought it was funny because she's telling people you need to take a joke. It reminds me about the guy, people, this is Facebook. It's not real. But at any rate, did she realize this is going to hit 80,000 people within a short amount of time? And I'm sorry, if she is not fired, that sends a message to the rest of the employees that you can do this.
Yeah.
This is a termination violation because it's not so much, that could be, and it has happened. Great employee. We love that employee. They just made a mistake. I don't care. This is telling the rest of your staff and your patients that you don't care.
Better hope she's not a wife of one of the physicians.
Not that hadn't happened. All right. So that's our HIPAA. Say what? For today. And let's get into our topic for today.
Whew, man. So data breach cost. Since we're just talking about data breaches, they're continuing to rise, and you can best believe that what we just talked about will end up being investigated.
Even the small breaches, when they get to this level, they get investigated because it's in the news.
Yeah. So, when you start hearing about, breach of one patient, you can have it.
Yeah, people pay big bucks for one or two patients because of just the level of or the lack of concern, I guess is the better way to put it. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, too, is it gets them in your business, and that's when they find all these other things.
And they can ask about anything.
Wasn't it last year there was like a breach of one? It was like $200,000 fine.
Or maybe more.
Or not a fine, but a settlement.
Yep.
But anyway, so we're going to get into some breach costs going up. So every year, the Ponemon Institute, I always make fun of them every year, call them the Pokemon Institute.
Yeah, he jokes about it when I saw him.
Yeah.
So
this is the 15th year they've done this report, and IBM now sponsors it. And there's, it wasn't much big news in there from the healthcare perspective. It's just the numbers keep going up as they normally do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of people debate these numbers. This is the number that most people use for the industry, what it costs when you have one, and it breaks it down by the industries. And everybody debates whether or not they believe that number. And it's because they try to include hard cost and soft cost. And that's where the debate comes in.
Yeah, that's tough to do.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about it all the time about, the settlement was X dollars, but we don't know how much it's going to cost in damage to the brand and the cap, the 2-year cap, or however long they have. It's hard to really say how much did this breach really cost.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so they have, what most people think about the cost is the detection, escalation, notification.
Mm-hmm.
That, the crisis management. And we've told people, that gets into your having an incident response, knowing what you're going to do is essential because it's not fun for you to learn it in the crisis, right? and I've had to be the one trying to explain in the crisis, and people argue and, that kind of stuff. But the other side that they look into is lost business, reputation loss, diminished goodwill, those kind of things. And then what they call ex post response. I don't know. It's all the stuff down, to deal with the company and the victims and the regulators past everything.
Mm-hmm.
So the help desk, the credit monitoring, creating new accounts, legal, regulatory fines, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, the damage control and cleanup.
Yeah. So they try to estimate those things, and they're able to show that it takes years. And I think that that's another thing that they're able to include is it's not like the year you have the breach is when this cost so much. It's over a 3-year period is how it costs so much.
Yeah. And we've talked about that in a previous episode.
Yes. But the average total cost of a data breach by industry, healthcare, ding, always
one.
up there.
You won.
$7.13 million. Yeah. Now
Average.
Average. And again, they have often pointed out that this falls under public in a lot of countries. So in the U.S., it's one of the few places it's a separate entity, a separate industry, rather, a sector. The global average is roughly, 3.4 million? So more than...
Yeah, 3.86. So it's almost...
Yeah. Oh, I was looking one below that. So anyway, so basically almost twice the average for healthcare. And healthcare is one that drags out the longest too.
Mm-hmm.
But, when you're out that far, okay, fine. You don't want to follow that number for healthcare. You know what the lowest number is 1 million, a little over $1 million. Pick that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Pick something else. Communication, 3 million. My point is, if you don't like that number, one of these others, pick the global average.
Yeah.
Call it $4 million. So the average total cost at 3.86, and of course the US is the highest, and healthcare is the highest of the highest.
So US healthcare would be
exactly. And so 280 days to identify and contain.
Ooh.
That's important. 280 days, because everybody seems to think that, you're just going to know. And especially now when the ransomware attacks aren't these malware focused as much as they are intrusion focused.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, the other thing they pointed out is they went ahead because it's 2020 and said, what do you think the pandemic's going to do to impact the cost of a data breach? And they came up with all the people they surveyed, $137,000 in additional cost because of the volume of remote work being done.
Yeah, I can believe that.
That's what we said.
I figured it'd be higher than that.
Yeah, that was their average global average. Yeah. So, but I mean, still.
Well, we talked about this before, which is when we were on the other podcast being interviewed, that we don't know what it's going to look like on the other side of this remote work thing. But, months down the road, when we start seeing all the problems that happen, because right now we don't know, I think it's going to be bad, I think. And I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
One of the few times I hope I'm wrong.
Well, we've got the economic concerns. We got the remote work. We got the technology. We got, so many concerns right now. You don't even know what to worry about. And when I was studying this, and a lot of the things are stuff we're used to seeing. The one thing that most people don't get is that they divide it into 3 categories when there is a data breach as far as the causation. Human error. Okay, we expect more error is all I can say. I don't know if they put that in there, but we know there's going to be more mistakes because there's too many distractions and changes. I hate the term glitch, but system glitch, there's nothing.
Nothing glitchy about it.
No, it drives me crazy, that term glitch. No, that's really just a different kind of human error. And those two combined is basically 50% versus malicious attack. So you got a 50-50 chance that it's not even going to be malicious attack that cost you this. And everybody worries about just the malicious attack. Yeah.
But it doesn't really go into, like, was the malicious attack due to human error?
Well, that's human error started it that got the malicious attack going. Yeah, that's possible. Yeah. Which would make it even more, lopsided. Yeah. But again,
aren't the system glitches because of human error too? So could we just say human error is 99% of the problem?
99%, yeah. But, still though, it's a 50-50 chance that it's going to be classified as something that's not a malicious attack.
Right.
And if you spend all your time worrying about protecting yourself from a malicious attack, then you're spending 100% of your time on a 50% chance. So anyway,
you're doing everything you can to protect the front side.
I know. In the meantime, somebody's setting things on fire behind you.
Yep. Ain't got time for that.
Yeah, but it's how you have to look at it holistically. And these costs are actually looking at it holistically. And I think that that's where a lot of people don't like these numbers because they think it includes too many things. It's too high. It's trying to scare people. These people have been doing it the same way for 15 years. Sometimes it's gone down. So anyway, when we get this report, yes, there's that number so that we know what you're up against. But the real thing that I try to use is that they go through and they say, okay, here's our averages. What can make that worse and what can make it better? How can we do, below average, not above average? Let's just shoot for, let's get below average and not worry about what the average is. Often you'll see people, and again, let's throw money at it. It's malicious attacks, and that's all of this different technology, and they're just buying it. And, it's kind of like, and I know you've seen this, David, where, well, we've got these great tools, and we're going to sell them because you need them for HIPAA.
Yeah, all the time.
You know what I'm saying? And when you say, why do you need them? Well, you need them for security. I know. And that's where people get mad at me because they want me to recommend that, their client, the IT companies have argued with me because they want me to recommend that all these things that we're telling them they need to do, we want you to recommend that they do it. And I said, I don't disagree that those are things you need to do. What I disagree with is that the most important place to spend your money right now. Because those aren't bad. If I don't have a fire over here that I need to put out and I need some money for that.
Yeah. Yes, we do need to fix your broken leg. But right now, you're bleeding from an artery.
Exactly. Yeah. That happened with my mother-in-law. She broke her neck in 4 places.
Ooh.
They were focused on that. She had a gash that required staples. It was so big in the back of her head. They just stapled that thing up. Numb it, staple it. We ain't got time to worry about that. We have to stabilize you to save your life. And that's exactly why we say, are you spending the money in the right way? And guess what? This report tells us, A, that if you don't spend the money in the right way, it doesn't help.
Yeah.
And B, where you get the best bang for your buck.
Which is super important.
So the number one way to make it worse is to have complex security systems.
Oh my gosh. This is one of my platforms.
Get on it, brother.
Well, I think we're going to see this a lot over the next year or two because people that are losing their IT jobs in corporate America, this is where we see a problem is that oftentimes they start to move toward doing IT for small business because look, they need a job and they're out of a job. I get it. But the only thing they know is corporate IT. And so they bring that skill set into a small business environment and they set up the most complex systems for these small environments. And the more complex it is, the harder it is to protect, which is why I tell other businesses, like, just because Garmin can't protect their stuff doesn't mean you can't. You have a much simpler system and easier to protect, or you should have.
Exactly.
But yeah, when I walk in somewhere and I'm like, you've got 5 computers and 2 servers. What was somebody thinking?
I know. I've been in places where they have like 8 employees and 5 servers.
And it's like, and then you look at how the other equipment they have set up, and it's like, why do you have a $10,000 router?
Yeah.
This is crazy. Like, it takes some specialist to operate this thing, which means it's probably wide open to problems because you shouldn't have to have that level of expertise to run this thing.
Right. Because those big companies, the big enterprises, they have teams devoted to it. And the people, they just know that that's what they've always worked on. They are part of that team. They do not lead that team usually.
Yeah. So
that's the number one way to make it worse.
But this also speaks to this point, which this is, all the MSPs are going to stand up and clap when I say this. But when another MSP takes over your IT services, this is why we come in and say we need to replace the network. Is because we have to get your complexity down. It doesn't mean that your environment necessarily is complex as much as it means that that specific MSP is not trained on that brand or on those systems you have in place. So by them putting systems in there that they know intimately inside and out, it lowers the complexity for them. And that's what you want.
And improves your security.
Absolutely. So don't look at it and say, I just bought this thing 2-3 years ago and it's just a different brand or whatever. It still does the same thing. I get it. But that's not what we're looking for here. We're looking to minimize the complexity so that you can increase your security.
Yep. That's that whole, do you drive a Cadillac or a Mercedes or a Lincoln, argument that I used to watch when I was younger between the dudes. I'll just leave it. Older dudes. Anyway, so that's a big one. Security skills shortage. Also a complicated thing that because people, just like you said, they don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And then compliance failures. Let's just go ahead with that.
That never happens.
Yeah, so those are 3 of the biggest ones. You can make it worse with third-party breaches, IoT or OT impacted. We've talked about that. So lost or stolen devices and remote workforce. These are all ways to make it worse.
Yeah, and everybody's forced into remote workforce right now. So let's take one of the things that make it worse and make everybody have to do it.
Exactly. Okay, so those are all the ways you can make it worse. Top 3 ways to make it better is something that we go on and on and on about. Testing an incident response plan, having an actual business continuity plan, and then the third thing is actually having an incident response team. Yeah. So, there's the team and testing it and having a plan. So if you do that, you have the highest likelihood of being below average. And then there's other things, red team testing, which that goes back to enterprise stuff, employee training, extensive encryption.
I was kind of shocked that I think, if I remember correctly, the red team testing was further down the list last time. So interesting that it's jumped up so far.
Well, because again, they're taking into account the enterprises and stuff like that. So
yeah, but I will say, it's not super expensive to have somebody come in and do some type of testing in your environment, even if it's just a physical walkthrough to see what your physical security looks like. So
yeah, we do that. Those are
so certainly
scary.
Yeah, but ask about it if you're a medical
maybe we
practitioner.
should explain red team testing.
Okay, so basically in IT we have red team, blue team. We play tag football, but the red team is the attacker and the blue team is the defender. And so depending on what you're trying to do, if you're trying to do, hacking type incident, then basically the red team is doing everything they can to try to breach the network or to social engineer their way in or to physically get in, whatever the case might be. And then the blue team's job is to keep them out. And by doing that, you have the red team is finding vulnerabilities, and then the blue team is finding out how there are attack surfaces there and how to defend against those attacks as they're happening. And you know that if a failure happens, if the red team gets in, then you're able to identify that and fix the problem, not have a breach on your hands to deal with.
Yeah, let's figure it out that way. So yes, and there are ways to do red team testing in small businesses.
Oh yeah.
Plenty of ways. But employee training, extensive encryption, we just talked about the importance of that over the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
Board involvement, a big one.
Yeah.
Leadership matters.
Yep. From the top. It's like somebody was complaining the other day. Actually, it was one of my kids. He's in the Air Force, right?
Yep.
He says, this guy walks up to, I don't know what his rank was, but he was up there in rank, and he walks up to him and he's like, "You're supposed to be wearing your mask." And it wasn't my son. It was two other people standing around him. But so they were like, okay, they put their mask on. So the guy walks off, and as soon as he walks off, he pulls his mask off. And so my son was complaining. He was like, "Dude, why is he running around screaming at everybody else to do something he's not willing to do himself?"
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, it matters. Having people at the top do what you want other people to do makes a big difference. Eat your pudding.
Eat your broccoli, people. Eat your own dog food. That's the other thing. But it is essential to understand that the things that are at the top are things that everyone can do.
Yeah.
These are not things that require you to throw a lot of money at it, to have a plan and to at least do like a desktop exercise of the plan.
And I do want to say that managed security services did make the list.
I know. I made sure I included that part for you.
Yep. So, and there again, I think you're going to see a shift in that area, because as companies are looking for ways to save money because of this whole economic thing, I think you're going to see some companies start going toward managed services, because it's going to be a lesser expense than hiring a team of people internally.
Well, yeah, because that, again, it goes back to the security skills shortage. If you don't have enough people to do it in the first place, you're going to have to narrow down the number of places that you're getting it from.
That's true.
Which is another big thing. So it is important to recognize that, yes, the costs are going up, but the ways that you can make it worse and the ways that you can make it better are not the expensive things.
True.
So please don't just listen to the cost of the data breach. Whoa. No. Get past all of that. Get past the arguments. How can I be below average in cost?
Yeah. I mean, this is one of the few times in life where you want to be below average.
There you go.
This is why I feel so comfortable in this area. It's been my life work to be below average.
Always been trying to figure out how to get there. I know.
Oh, no. It's so much less stressful down here.
Okay.
All right, folks. That's so funny. Anyway, that is our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to follow us out and follow us out the door. Follow us and share us on social media. And we promise not to put any photos or x-rays on our pages. Anyway, rate our podcasting app. We need your help to spread the word. And as always, you can send in your questions or comments or ideas. And Donna will respond, I promise. So for Donna and myself. Yeah, mentally. So for Donna and myself, remember, as always, the HIPAA is not about compliance. It is about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.